Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Environmental Social Justice. I am your host, 𝑤𝒒𝒐𝒍𝒆, with my co-hosts, Joy Langford and 𝑗𝒊𝒏𝒈. Today, we welcome back Jessica Aldridge. Jessica is the Director of Sustainability and Zero Waste Programs at Athens Services. Welcome back, Jess.
Athens!
I am. So just a little on Athens. We are a local family-owned and operated environmental services company that focuses on recycling and waste diversion and organics, which is kind of what we're talking about today. And we've been a reputable fixture in Southern California since 1957. We're the largest recycling organics collection and processing company in the greater Los Angeles area. We are a landfill avoidance company. We do not own any landfills. We operate them, but we still have to pay to dump at them. Yep. And in my position as the Director of Sustainability and Zero Waste Programs, in addition to supporting obviously the sustainability efforts of our company and also the companies that we service, I get to create outreach and education-based programs, diversion-based programs and communications with the fun intent of inspiring action and behavior change and reducing waste and calling transparency to things like we're going to talk about today, and so that we're all on the same page.
Absolutely. And if there's ever an event in Los Angeles, I don't care if it's in South Central, Long Beach, far out as Riverside, Athens is always there to not only talk about, waste management and making sure we're doing the right things for the community. They are actually out there doing it, from providing big trash barrels to providing booths. Athens is really in the community promoting environmental social justice issues. So kudos.
And that's a love letter to Athens from Joy Langford.
It's a very subtle fan club. She comes on, there's cheering and applauding. Joy just gave the spiel. This is a new one. This is a new one.
I tell you.
I need to wake up every morning like this. If Joy, if you could just come and talk to me every single morning and give me a pep talk.
You should have a recording. It should be your wake-up call. Your alarm is just Joy praising you. But we are going to talk trash today. And one of the things that Jessica's in charge of is the fact that we have a lot of waste, and some of that can be recycled, but there's confusion as to what a disposable is. So what is a disposable?
Yeah, so we're talking about foodware disposables specifically, right? Because all of this stuff around us, right, it will eventually be disposed of. And but today, talking about foodware, single-serving foodware disposable, things like those plates and the cups and sometimes utensils and things of that nature. And I do want to say, because we're going to be talking about compostables and bioplastics, that when a certifying agency says that something is compostable, those compost certification agencies are only certifying for foodware. They're not certifying those Neutrogena face tissues that say that they're compostable in your backyard. They're not certifying Pele cases. This is not foodware. So the certifying bodies for compostability is for foodware. And so we're talking about BPI, Biodegradable Products Institute, CMA, the Compost Manufacturers Alliance, or TÜV, they're out of Austria. And BPI and CMA, they follow the American Society for Testing and Material Standards. It's called ASTM, to certify their products. TÜV's out of Austria. They got their own thing. And just although something says it's compostable, it doesn't actually mean that it's acceptable always in all industrial compost facilities. And I know that we're going to get into that. But before we talk about disposables, the number one solution to disposables, the best thing you can do is reuse. That, bar none, is reuse. It's the true and best solution. Than choosing something that is truly compostable or recyclable or maybe has less plastic. And so when we talk about disposables, there are, for the hierarchy, first, reusables, second, 100% fiber-based foodware, 100% compostable, then it's recyclables, then it's bioplastics. And so for the 100% fiberware material, from a waste hauler's perspective overall, I guess, is that if you're standing in front of a bunch of containers and you're like, where do I put all of this? And you've got food scraps, because now in California, we're all supposed to compost our food scraps. You're supposed to put that in the organics container. But what about the vessel that it's sitting on? So do I scrape the plate of the food scraps and put it in one container and then take that vessel and either put it in the recycling or the landfill? Or do I take the whole entire vessel and put it in the organics because the whole entire thing is compostable? Well, that sounds like the best option, right? And we're hoping that it causes less confusion and less contamination. And that's what we get with 100% fiber-based foodware. That's the most ideal. And for, the 100% fiber-based means that there's no, it's 100% fiber. There's no chemical modifications. It's derived 100% from cellulose. There's no bioplastic, so it's not shiny. Even though it's fiber and you look and it's got like a shiny coating, it's not shiny. There's no bioplastic, petroleum plastic oil, or wax. Not taking the wax. I know that's a misnomer. Or wax coating, liner, or filler. So got this little grody thing over here. This was out of my compost, fresh out of my compost today. And if you tear
She
it,
did pull it out of her compost today.
It's all fiber. It doesn't have any, it easily tears. There's no filler in there. There's nothing that looks like plastic or bioplastic.
It kind of looks like thick paper. Thick paper.
It's made out of usually out of an ag byproduct that's not grown specifically just for that product. It's a byproduct instead of raw material extraction. And that's like sugarcane, wheat straw, bamboo. And like the sugarcane, the bagasse would either be incinerated or landfilled if it wasn't collected and turned into something else. And bamboo is rapidly renewable. The only issue with the bioplastics, the fiberware on this stuff is that a lot of it doesn't need an oil barrier or a grease barrier, but some of it does. Because if we're taking this home and it's like a to-go-ware and we bought ourselves some food, we don't want, let's say we bought soup. We don't want that soup leaking out in, 30 minutes and causing a mess. We don't want it sweating. So there's got to be a barrier, right? It's convenient. And there's got to be a barrier of some sort. Or if we're using coffee cups, disposable cups, bring your reusables if you can, but that's going to hold your coffee for a pretty long time. So you don't want it leaking out. So there's going to be some sort of barrier. And that barrier is going to either be plastic, which means it's not 100% fiber-based. It's going to be bioplastic, again, not 100% fiber-based. Wax, not 100% fiber-based. Or there's others that they use, like PFAS, fluorinated chemical. And I know
good old
PFAS just keeps showing up.
It's literally everywhere.
In our blood. So
okay, so this is a lot. That was a lot. I guess. Well, here's my big question for you. So recycling alone is freaking confusing because you get your pizza in a cardboard box, but that can't be recycled because it's got the grease on it. You've got like all these containers that have the recycling logo on it, but really some of them are, some of them aren't. So it's like we can't even wrap our heads around what can be recycled. So now that we have to do the composting thing, oh dear Lord, like how are people supposed to really know what they're supposed to do?
Especially in a hurry. You usually are in a hurry and you're at a concert arena or baseball field and you're like, I don't know where this goes.
I mean, we go, exactly. I mean, you go shopping now and they've got like 3 separate things up, like trash, landfill, recycle. And I'm like, it's a sweetener packet. Oh dear. And like you start sweating and getting stressed out. So I'm like, which one does it go into? How do we know?
Yeah. So with the single-use disposable ware, what cities are trying to do and what the state is trying to do is, pass ordinances so that the fiberware that the businesses or the disposable ware that the businesses are providing are actually compostable or recyclable within the current market system. And so a lot of our, cities in Los Angeles County are looking at, enforcing or passing their ordinances to make sure that this is the case. And so and with the state of California, with the PFAS situation, because we wouldn't be able to tell if something has PFAS in it, right? That they passed an ordinance, the governor passed an ordinance, Assembly Bill 1200, that said that for all plant fiber packaging ware, that it can't have intentionally added PFAS or any levels exceeding 100 parts per million of fluorine. So right now, all of the fiberware companies that create this material are rushing to figure out what the next best solution is going to be for a grease barrier. So that when we go to the 3-bin system and we're staring at it, right, we're going, What do I put it in? It's fiberware. I know it is, and it's got food in it. I put it directly in the organics container, and you don't have to think about it. If it ever looks like plastic and it's on fiberware, just throw it away.
Well, they're also taking it a step further at the legislature. I know Assemblywoman McKinnon has a new bill coming out, 16 something. Don't quote me with a bunch of bills, but limiting microfibers that come out of washing machines of all things. So she wants washing machines to have a filter so that the water, the wastewater, does not have microfibers leaking out and seeping into our main water streams as we try to recycle as much water as possible. So I don't know how far we will be able to take, all of these different initiatives, whether it's with cutlery from a restaurant or putting things on washing machines to make sure that microfibers are actually caught before they enter the wastewater system. But it's a lot to think about, and there's a lot to be done at different levels.
Well, I think the educational aspect is the most important. And with Jessica talking about, the fiber-based foodware, that's hard to say.
It is,
but
really?
Then one of the things we were talking about was recyclables.
Yeah.
And bioplastic. I mean, we're going to spend a lot of time on bioplastics because it's a very confusing topic.
And it's the it topic right now in the state of California. Yeah.
And people are frustrated as to understanding why something that's being marketed to them as being compostable is not accepted in the organics container. And so I'm here to tell you why.
I'm like, it's bioplastic. It can decompose in my back garden. No, it can't.
In about 100 years, but that's okay. It gets done.
Maybe. It's got to have the right conditions.
Trying to be optimistic.
If it's not certifiable, compostable in your backyard, I can't say it's going to break down in 100 years.
So as we start looking at, obviously we're talking new technologies and all this kind of stuff, which means that there's going to be greater costs for all this kind of stuff. So we're now looking at the composting. So obviously there's going to be costs associated with this. There's going to be costs associated with the new bioplastics or whatever you want to call it. Eventually this all comes down to the consumer, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I guess my question is, they're putting a lot of emphasis on the companies to create something that's going to be great. How much faith do we actually have in the companies doing what's right? I mean, and I'm not trying to say every company will be bad, but
talking about
three bad.
Talking about servingware, or talking about in general just
companies
companies
going to be an alternative to using the wax on the containers, or something that's going to be more eco-friendly that can be composted.
The new technology.
So with the state legislation and with city regulations right now in their servingware ordinances or their plastic reduction ordinances, that's what they're figuring out is what they're going to be mandating. And a lot of these ordinances are already passed. So they're figuring out what they're mandating to the consumer. And so some of the issues that come up is, the material is not so readily available. When every single restaurant in your area is ordering the same exact thing, the cost comes down and the availability comes down. The material's here. It's here. We have businesses that are selling the 100% fiberware material. We have businesses right now who are scrambling to make sure that they have a fiberware that can be used across the board, because they know they can't sell their fiberware their fiberware would not be acceptable in a compost facility if it has bioplastic. But then they know their fiberware, their alternative of using PFAS or even like an aqueous coating, which has plastic in it, might not, the PFAS one isn't allowed. The aqueous is allowed right now. But they have to come up with a solution, and they really need to be looking at, and these certifying bodies need to be making sure that the solution that is put in place for these grease barriers is not a regrettable solution. And so when they're certifying them for compostability, that's what these third-party certifiers are in place for, is to make sure that that product breaks down in the time frame it's supposed to make sure that product follows ASTM standards, to make sure that it has no residuals, that there's no plastic in it, although the aqueous, there's no plastic in it, and that it's safe to the soil and to the compost. And so though there are standards put in place to make sure that the product that you're getting eventually is good, that it will break down in the way it's supposed to. However, the bioplastics are going to stay. There's no piece of legislation saying that bioplastics can't exist, but there is state or city ordinances that say you need to use a product that is truly compostable or recyclable within the market that you're in.
Could you real quick explain, with respect to bioplastics only, the fact that it takes like 60 to 160 days for it to decompose under high heat?
Yeah, I think we need to set up what bioplastic is, because we're talking about it at this higher level, but I think people just need to really understand what bioplastic is. Bioplastic is a product that is made from plants, but it looks like plastic, and that could be the whole entire product, or it could be a liner or a coating that's inside of it. You can tell it's a little shiny. Or a filler. It's made from starchy plants that are high in sugar, so like corn, cassava, sugar beets. It's a lot of times attractive because it lasts longer, it's harder. Sometimes it's see-through, so it's aesthetically pleasing. A lot of the times it's some of it's a byproduct, but sometimes it's a virgin material. So the more and more that we need this stuff, the more that we need to make it, to supply this product for whatever we're going to use, we're going to have more of this product. Let me go back on that. The more that we need this, the more agricultural use that we're going to need in order to grow this. And so that calls into question, where is it being grown? And are there issues with deforestation? Are there issues with human rights? Is it being grown in areas like the Amazon? And I personally feel, put on record, I think that this element needs to be considered when we're certifying these products. Is it sourced ethically in an environmentally safe manner? Not just does it break down and is it good for our soil? So when you have these bioplastics, as I was saying, if they are breaking down under the ASTM standards, which doesn't mean that they're acceptable in a compost facility, it just means they're breaking down under those ASTM standards, which you were alluding to, Wendy. That just means that there's no plastic, there's no residue, it's not negatively impacting the quality of the compost. And so for the ASTM standard for compostability, which is very important for us to understand, because that is one of the reasons why a lot of compost facilities can't take this material, is because the disintegration rate of a bioplastic is set for 12 weeks or 84 to 90 days. And that's a shorter time period than these compost facilities are turning material. The maximum time frame for biodegradation of the bioplastic is 180 days. So the first level is 90 days. The second level, full compost, it's gone, no residual, 180 days. And these compost facilities, which I'm sure we'll get into in a second, but I'll just give the teaser. These compost facilities, we got to move material. Yeah. SB 1383, Senate Bill 1383, we are processing the largest amount of material that goes to a landfill is organics. We're processing all of that now. That's all coming into these compost facilities to break down, to make compost, to anaerobically digest. There's different types of systems out there. We got to move it. We don't have enough land and time and resources to be able to be processing something that is not breaking down in the time frame that is available to us.
For half a year. It's like sitting there for half a year, decomposing. You don't have
like this thing. I don't know where this is going. Not soil. What?
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Yeah. It's a hot mess. It just is.
It's a hot mess.
And then I'm thinking about how you have to also market it to businesses. Biodegradable plastics. You go to a Panda Express or somewhere else that's trying to serve you a meal at an affordable price, then they have to, suddenly provide a $4 fork for an $8 meal. I mean, I know that sounds dramatic, but something to the effect of how do you also educate the businesses that are providing the product to the end users, which are us. I mean, you see little cute signs everywhere. If cutlery will not be given to you unless, upon request. Well,
State law.
most of the people that are working in these places are just throwing it in the bag anyway. They don't want to hear you ask them for it 150,000 times. So they just put that in the bag with all of the condiments and stuff that you never use. You're going to toss out that are also wrapped in plastic.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, those are plastic usually anyway.
I'm trying to figure out how it translates down from at Athens, who is a very good educator of the communities that they serve. How does it translate down to the end user who is going to be the responsible citizen that actually recycles this the right way or thinks before they take something extra from a restaurant?
It's not going to get recycled because it's not, period. And that's why there's state law. That's why these businesses, and you can report them if you like, that's why these businesses are not legally allowed to put single-use disposable stir sticks, condiment things, the forks, the spoons, and all of that into that container. And they've got it's a slow learning practice. And so the health department will be educating them. The cities that they're in should be educating them. I can't speak to what they do. I know that that's a conversation that sometimes our recycling coordinators, because we are focused on zero waste, are having with our customers as well to say, hey, do you know that these pieces of legislation exist? We have a legislation handout that we give out to our customers, and we're updating it here soon. And it's going to have all of the recent legislation in regards to, and city ordinances in regards to how people manage those single-use disposables. We have a handout that is alternatives for single-use disposables. So we have a 2-page handout that specifically goes into talking about reusables, telling them there are organizations, nonprofit organizations such as Upstream and others, who have proven that when businesses go to reusables, that they actually save money. And so we provide that information to our customers. And then we say, if you're going to have these disposables, here are the ones. If you have a ramekin, a little small cup, this is what we suggest you use. If you need a coffee cup, well, there's not a great compostable or recyclable option, so go with the one that's made with bioplastic. And we haven't got into why bioplastic's not breaking down, so I'm just alluding to that. But we say, if you have a plate, use this fiberware. If you need utensils, use the ones that are there are fiberware utensils out there, and there are bamboo utensils out there that are not that bad in price. And so we break it down. We don't tell them exactly what business to go to, but we give them a list of what specifically they should be looking at when they go to do their purchasing. So we try to be there as much as possible so that we can help them make choices that also help us in the long run. Because if we're getting that material into our stream and we're educating, so Joel, you're talking about how are people being educated? Well, this 1383, right? All of us are supposed to engage in our food scraps recycling, correct? How does it happen? So with Athens, we have like 40 plus cities. So each one gets, we have similar outreach and education materials for every single one of them. But we also have different outreach teams. They can't all be at the same place. So we have different outreach teams going and how that city wants us to conduct our outreach. But when we have an online videos about how to separate your organics, what can go in that, we have handouts, we have online materials, we have a 400 plus guide item resource guide on our website that we promote. We are trying to get the information out there as much as possible so that people understand the difference between fiberware and bioplastics and why we don't take them, or what goes in each container and things of that nature. So trying to saturate it as much as possible. And then we ebb and flow because we realize something works, doesn't work. I follow social media accounts and I follow the LA Times and LA Sanitation and other sanitation departments when people are making comments, and I get to hear from the community as to why they're confused. And so then I can build my programs around that to say, okay, they're looking for this particular answer. They keep asking this question. So let me make sure that I'm answering it.
So I mean, the worst part for me, I'm sorry, just like really quick point. The worst part for me is like when they give you all those utensils, is like, one, because we get that, we do take that a lot. I don't like to cook. So we get like our delivery and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, first of all, I'm insulted you think this much food is for 3 people. So we're settings for like that many people. I'm like, no, I'm just hungry. So sorry, that actually is what really annoys me the most about all of it. But so once the compost is made, what's happening with it? Like what's
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I jumped in. Like, where does it go?
Once the compost is made, where does it go? Is that the question? So once the compost is made and bioplastics are not in it, I want to get back to that.
We got to get back to the bio.
Gotta get back to that because there's a lot there that people don't know why we're not taking this material. It goes to different places. So it's it goes through its whole entire process. It's certified to be used on organic farms. It goes through a pathogen reduction process. It's really amazing compost. What?
Is it getting sold?
Yeah. So we sell some of it. We also give away a lot of it. So
I actually got some of yours. It's fabulous. My roses did great.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, but that was actually my concern, is that like we're being told that we have to do this kind of stuff, and then we're going to start seeing the bills for it come up on our the statements and all this kind of stuff, and everybody pays for it. But I'm hoping that this is a system that's set up to start paying for itself, is what I'm getting at. Hopefully.
There's a lot that goes into the processing, though. It's not
just Joel, it's very expensive. And so you don't make the money back on the back end of selling compost.
Okay. But I guess hopefully there's going to be something there, so that way it's not just going to be, because let's be honest, we live in California, we have high taxes, we all pay out the wazoo for living here. So I want to make sure that it's not going to become something that's going to become another burden on people that are just trying to pay rent and put food on their table. So I think that actually is one of, I would say, the biggest concern about it. I get the benefit of it.
There's one way to stop that, Joel. Buy less, use less, generate less waste.
Lovely concept, but now we can talk about it.
But Joel already said he's getting 3 times the amount of food every single time he orders his meal. So
no, I'm getting pencil. I'm just hungry.
No, but that also goes to the whole hamster wheel of everything. Yeah. The restaurant wants to give you extra food because they know what their price point is per person to keep the restaurant open. So they want to give the clientele what the clientele would feel that it's worth, but everybody keeps leftovers in their refrigerator. That's another whole waste.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the bio. We really got to get back to the bioplastics, though.
We need a whole hour one day with.
We do, and the thing is, bioplastics aren't evil. It's a step in the right direction, but it's not completely degradable as most people think it is.
Can I talk about why we have a hard time taking this, so that people understand that it's not just us saying that we don't want it? So the most important issue is that bioplastics are considered inorganic by state and federal legislation. It's considered synthetic. So those certifying bodies, CDFA, California Department of Food and Agriculture, and OMRI, the Organics Material Review Institute, does not allow inorganic material in our feedstock. So it is not approved for organic use. We are legally prohibited from saying, oh, we'll take it, we'll just sift it out if it doesn't break down. We can't even do that. So if we're selling our material to organic farms, we are not legally allowed to take bioplastics. And so unless federal and state law changes, that aspect will never change. Now, could it change? Could lobbyists be like, please, we need to be able to take this material? Yes. And I see that eventually, maybe those thinner plastics, the stuff that maybe lines a fiberware or a coffee cup or something, maybe eventually those will be able to break down within the time frame that we are doing our compost facilities. But like these harder ones, they're not going to go anywhere. And that brings us to the next issue, is how, and I've mentioned before, how long it takes to fully compost these products versus how long the facilities can keep the bioplastics on site before they become a loss. And so due to those new state regulations, like we were talking about, requiring food scrap collection for everyone, compost facilities need to process the material quickly. They need to move it quickly. Many facilities are moving to what's called an aerated static pile. That is a 1-month processing time. So if we're remembering that 12-week and those 180 days, it's not processing. So, by keeping this stuff on site and then hoping it breaks down, we risk our diversion credit, we risk fines, we risk losing certifications if we exceed specific contamination levels. So is it worth the risk to try to break this stuff down? What if we had a whole section dedicated to bioplastics? There's a whole issue in that as well that I can talk about. It's going to cost, as Joel was saying, a hell of a lot more money. and who's going to be paying for that. It's also very hard to identify because it looks like plastic, and the standard branding is very difficult to have across the spectrum, even though BPI is trying to do that, the certification body, but it's still really hard to see on the line. If it looks like plastic, let's say that we can. Let's say that we're allowed to take it now. CDF and OMRI say, yeah, you can take it. But if it still looks like plastic, it still looks like an inorganic material, we're not going to take the risk. It's also inert. It adds no value to the pile. So what happens when we start getting more and more and more of this material that's doing nothing for the pile? When does it become a cost to us? And when does that cost exceed the value of taking it? Even because although it might make things easier for people and they might feel better because it's not made out of plastic, or maybe there's not a fiberware alternative, where's the value at, right? Yeah. And the anaerobic, the in-vessel, the wastewater treatment plants, they don't want this stuff at all. So we're up against a hill here. Are bioplastics a good solution for some things? Yes, they are, to be able to replace plastic if they're being done in an ethical manner and an environmentally safe manner. If they're following ASTM standards, if they're certified by BPI and CMA, great. But that doesn't mean that we can compost them. Yeah. You know, just because it's certified compostable doesn't mean that the waste hauler accepts it. Just because it's certified compostable doesn't mean that it will be composted. Just because it's certified compostable doesn't mean that's 100% fiber-based.
So what can people look for to stop before they start? Like when they're buying something or they're getting takeaway or something, great. Bringing your own mason jar and filling it up with takeaway is the right thing to do, but it's super hard. I mean, I'm not going to do it.
And it's not sanitary, right?
Well, I don't know how dirty you are, Joel.
Oh no, you're fine. No, it's fine. You bring in your own reusables to take home your food. That's not a sanitary issue for the restaurant. You're at your table putting your food in your container. That's not
that kind of
Yeah, that's
not letting them take it behind the counter and
they are legally allowed to use reusables. There are standards in place put in place by the health department, and those standards in Southern California in LA County were never removed during COVID. I don't know if y'all know that. Like during COVID, any person would be able to take the reusable cup if done in a safe manner. I used my cup the whole entire time. I don't use disposables. So not in that manner. Not become out.
But I mean, it freaks me the heck out because I mean, seriously, think about it. I know my stuff is clean. If I'm carrying something in, to say, hey, I want to put my leftovers here, or can you just, I'm ordering takeaway. I go up to the counter, like, oh, here's my dishes. I know my stuff is clean. I don't know if the person behind me has been washing their dishes regularly. And if that's going down in the kitchen.
That's why standards are in place by the health department on how to handle reusables. Very stringent standards are in place on how to handle reusables.
Joel.
I'm with you, Roy. I'm like,
He's broken.
Most people aren't going to be taking a plate. They're taking a cup. They have to handle it in a specific way. But we're not going to get into those. Not yet. That could be a whole other conversation. We got a reusables conversation another day.
With Jessica. But so when people are going out into the store and they're buying stuff, and and I was duped all of like maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I'm like, bioplastic, it back garden decomposes. It's wonderful. And a friend of mine was like, dude, you have no idea what you're talking about. And then I did my homework and I realized I did not know what I was talking about. So what can people look for when they're at the store and they want, like bamboo plates I see in the grocery store wrapped in a plastic bag, yay, but it's shiny. Does that mean it's coated?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, if you see a coating, I would just avoid it at this point because I don't know what that is. And they're not going to tell you on it. It may say bioplastic on the container. And if you're looking for something that is, if your intent is to buy something that can go in your organics container because you need a disposable, you're going to be looking for something that's 100% fiber-based. It's not going to probably say that. So you're going to look for something that's certified compostable and that does not say bioplastics on it, that is not shiny, that, if you were to have it and tear it, it looks like fiber. Here's some things that are greenwashing. If something says biodegradable in a landfill or beneficial to a landfill, that is federally illegal to say. So when these companies say it on their products or on social media, and I'm a social media warrior, I'm like, what is it? It's wrong. They can't federally say that. California Senate Bill 567 says that it prohibits anything that looks like plastic, if it be bioplastic or plastic, from saying biodegradable, oxidegradable, or photodegradable. So when you're looking for these products, or even if you want to buy a bioplastic and you want that bioplastic to be an appropriate bioplastic, look for that BPI certification. Look for the CMA certification. They may say biodegradable on the dumb product. You really need to look for it saying compostable, certified compostable. If it says, well, we'll compost in your backyard, like the Neutrogena face wipes that I have a
Neutrogena.
Right so I'm angry at them.
I have to ask this question, and this is in all seriousness. So they're trying to do the rules and the regulations and pass the laws about what can be used in the composting. Are we putting the cart before the horse here to try to implement composting on a state level when we don't even have the laws in place or the education in place to tell people what this actually means?
Oh, we have the education in place and we have the material. So is the section about, I think it's twofold here. SB 1383 is a really hard piece of legislation, and I definitely think some was a bit cart before the horse.
Yeah.
However, we have the organics. 30% of the material going into a landfill is organics. And so how quickly we were told that we had to roll this out, that's difficult because all the cities had to do it. Northern California is a little bit different because they can site compost facilities a lot easier than Southern California can because of air and water quality regulations.
Right.
And so we didn't have the capacity, right, to be able to process all of the material that will be coming into the stream. So everyone's rushing to make sure that we have it. In regards to the outreach and education, I can't speak for any of the other waste haulers, but I think my outreach and education is pretty good. And I'm hoping people are utilizing it. I'm hoping that they're able to get their hands on it. If they're not, let me know. I will help. That's what we're here for. So for Athens, we stepped up. We were already doing it before SB 1383 was in place. We already were servicing businesses and residents for organics and some of them for food scraps, wasted food, before that piece of legislation was in place. We already were running pilot programs in multifamily residential complexes to understand how we could get them to separate their organics so that when this piece of legislation came down, we were able to really grab the bull by the horns, maybe in a better, a more experienced way than other entities were able to.
Because see, and I think that's awesome because like we're supposed to be getting green bins at some point in time. Don't know when this is actually going to be. I have no freaking idea what I'm doing other than going, where the hell am I putting this thing? Like, I mean,
you'll learn.
Well, actually, but that's the issue is that like you will learn, but in the meantime, you have to start this now. What the hell am I starting?
Well, you don't have a container yet, so you don't have to start it now. You'll be told the moment you have to start.
Yeah.
Change is hard and it's scary. And I think a lot of people are very like, like, whoa, what's going to happen because they want to do the right thing. When it's like this and like, screw it, I don't want to do that. They're just not going to do it.
Right.
However, that initial reaction is like, oh my gosh, am I going to mess up? Am I going to do this right? Am I going to be confused? Is this going to be easy for me?
Mm-hmm.
And I can say it will become very easy for you. Very easy because the food scrap situation is just all your food, Joel. It's that the fiberware material that can be a little confusing, right? And I'm trying to get that information out there to say, and even in our handouts that we give people, that this is what you can do with it. This is where it goes. And then when you get your green container and you have your little kitchen pail, or we're going to tell you to get a kitchen pail, whatever it is, to be able to separate this. I know, Joel, you're not going to want that on your counter.
You'll survive it, Joel. You will.
Joel, I'm going to come over to your house. We're going to do a video. I'm going to walk you through everything.
Here's the kicker: is that like everybody's being told you've got to, keep these pails to put your food in there. I'm going to speak for myself, but I was thinking one person has a question, everybody else has it. I don't want my damn house smelling like junk or just smelling nasty and attracting.
You can put it in your freezer. You can put it in your fridge.
I have no room in my freezer or fridge. We just went over how much food I'm getting. But I mean, but seriously, but these are the things that people are honestly thinking about. Is like, I don't want this smell in my house.
I have put together a list of helpful tips and hints for people when they have these type of questions, right? It's like, well, is it going to attract ants? Because I have an ant issue. I have a really great solution for that. If, you know, for me, I have an ant issue. I don't have an ant issue anymore because I resolved it. I have, you know, Castile soap is what I spray on my organics. I don't have a smell issue. I don't have a bug issue. I don't even have a rodent or raccoon issue in the back of my house where my organics container is, where I dump it into it. And I have a family of raccoons living under my house. Maybe my food's not good. I don't know. Maybe that's like telling me I'm not a good cook. But
I have like so many questions, and I don't know if I should keep going or not, because
no, we've run into 40 minutes, so we're going to have to do part 3 because there's so much to unwrap. But I do want to say, you know, final thought there. If people find this hard and they don't want to do it, and don't you tell me what to do, I want you to think about Japan. I want you to think about Finland and other Scandinavian countries where you have between 8 and 12 separate bins that you have to sort your waste into. And if you do not, the fines are between hundreds of dollars to thousands of dollars. Mm-hmm. So what we're asking you to do is minimal. So Jessica, thank you so much for your time today. The wealth of information. If you have time to come back in like a month or so, we got to pick this up. Joel's going to have a conniption fit, but we got to do it.
I got a lot of issues. Yeah.
I'm hoping Joel has this container by then, and I'll just join Joel on the feed here.
You'll just have to go to Joel's house and watch him have a complete conniption fit.
Joel, I'm going to convert you to the organics recycling world. This is my.
Look, I'm all on board for it, but of course I tend to spiral. So we'll do next call. Next. Yeah.
Joel, yeah. I've known Joel a long time. He spirals. It's okay. I do. He does. It's all right. But on that, guys, thank you so much. This is Environmental Social Justice. I'm your host, Wendy Nystrom, with my co-host, Joy Langford, Joel 𝒍𝒂𝒒. And again, Jessica, thank you so much. And thank you, Athens Services. You guys are doing a great job. Seriously. Take care. We'll see you guys later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.